Hello my sweets, it's Keisha. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you consider subscribing. Today I'm teaming up with one of my favorite YouTube creators, Kerri from Mama Dares To DIY, to bring you a collaboration inspired by Kirkland's fall decor. So when you're done watching my video, be sure to check out Kerri's video linked in the description box below. While looking through the Kirklands site, I was inspired to make this 1999 white pumpkin welcome metal sign. With a couple of tweaks to suit my taste, I'm going to show you how I made mine for about $5. If you'd like to see how, just keep watching. I'm going to start this welcome sign with a pack of paint mixing sticks from the HomeDepot. It's a 10 pack. I'll be using all 10 of them, and what I want to do is to line up 8 of them about 11 inches apart, and then I'm going to go ahead and secure them together with the other 2 separate ones here. So I'm pretty much just gonna eyeball this, just making sure they're pretty much even. But I do know that I want them to be 11 inches apart. So I'm gonna take a combination of wood glue, which the Gorilla wood glue, and hot glue to put these together. Okay, so I'm going to set this to the side to let the wood glue set up a little bit, and I'll be right back. Okay, next I'm going to come in with this apple barrel Territorial beige, and I'm going to smooth this onto the sign here with a baby wipe. So I'm just going to start doing that, and the purpose of the baby wipe is to help it act more like a stain as opposed to just painting it on there. So I'm going to go ahead and do this and then let that dry. So I want to make sure that I get I just want to make sure that I get the sides as well. And you just want to make sure the whole thing is covered. Okay, so while the sign is off to the side drying, we're going to work on our pumpkin. This is a printout that I got off of Google, and it is a free coloring page. I'll go ahead and link it in the description box if you want to use this same pumpkin. And what we're going to do is transfer this onto some foam core. Now I have 2 scraps here that I have in my little scrap bin, so I'm going to use these, and we're going to use the scratch on the back transfer method. So I've already pre-done this, so you don't have to watch me do this part. What I am going to do is set this down on here, and I should probably just cut off the bottom of it here. I didn't think that far ahead though, did I? Okay. Just so I can have a good look at what's going on here. think this was the way I intended it to be on here. So, excuse me. I'm gonna set this down on here, and then I'm just going to trace the outline of the pumpkin and then into some of this area here, so that I can use that later on. So I'm just gonna start coloring this in, or marking it in, so I have some place to actually cut the foam board. So this is what I wanted here. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take this other sheet that I have, or little piece, and I'm going to actually just do the center part. So just this area here. So this is what I wanted. So I'm just gonna cut this out here, and actually what I'm gonna do is make an arrow on the back so I know that this is supposed to be up. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that on the back so I don't get confused. And so I'm gonna cut this whole thing out, and then I'm gonna cut around just the outline of this pumpkin. So this is what we have so far. So what I'm gonna do is take a piece of sandpaper and just kind of sand this down a little bit, just to kind of smooth out these edges, or somewhere the foam got caught up, and just get that smoothed out. So I'm gonna do that, and I will be right back. So I got the pieces sanded, and I used this 220 grit sandpaper. I'm not sure where this even came from, but it was in our stuff, so I'm using it. So now I realized after I got this done that I had forgotten to do the stem. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the stem now. And I'm just gonna lay it down on the sheet, and really all I want is the shape right here. And it's not gonna be an exact match, but it'll give me a rough idea of what I'm working with here. So I've gotten it to right here. And so the next thing that I'm gonna do is figure out what length I want it to be. The one on here is a little bit short, a little bit stumpy. So I'm gonna extend this a little bit, and let's see here. I think I'm gonna go maybe about 2.5 inches from the bottom center here. Let's see if that looks okay, if it's not too big. And so I think what I'm gonna do is bring it up so it's about 1.5 inches wide. Quarter. And what if I just freehand it? Let's see if that looks okay. We're just gonna set that there. And we'll be putting some things here in the middle, so oops, my thumb was shaking there. So we'll have a little bit sticking out of the top there. So I think that's gonna be okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it out. So I've gotten this part done. Let me just trim this little extra paper here, and then I'm gonna sand it. So this is basically what I did with the actual pumpkin piece. I just went over it and kind of smoothed out these edges. Okay, so that's basically what I did, and that's what it looks like. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up, and we're gonna go on to the next step. So next what I'm gonna do is start painting on the pumpkin here, and I'm going to be using Plaster Waverly chalk paint. I also have steel here, as well as silver lining. So I would have preferred to use the white chalk paint, but I'm just about tapped out of that, so we're just gonna do this. Now, in the past, I've had issues with painting, I'm just doing a full disclosure here. I've had issues with painting foam core. I don't know what it is that I do that makes the big difference, but it always seems to want to peel off and wrinkle up. So what I'm trying this time, after I requested some advice, is to make sure that I do it very thinly. So that's what I'm going to do here, is just do thin coats and not saturate this paper too much. And I'm only going to go to right about here with the color, because we're going to end up gluing this piece on top to give the pumpkin some dimension. So there's no need to waste paint by going too far, or painting the whole thing, I should say. So I'm just kind of doing this in a round motion. Okay, I think that coverage is good. So the next color I'm going to be moving on to is the steel. And the idea here is to try to create some depth in the pumpkin, in the ridges here, so it just doesn't look so flat. I'm not an expert on the painting, but I'm gonna try. So I'm just gonna kind of follow along with the darker color first here. That's gonna be our deepest part. I'm also going to take this gray and come along the edge here of this one. So next I'm going to come in with the silver lining, which is the lighter gray. And I'm just going to try to fade out this darker line just a little bit. Okay, and I'm just going to come around here on this piece and just kind of bring that over just a little bit. I'm just, at this point now, I'm just trying to make sure that these are going to match up once I get ready to glue it down. Okay, now I'm really feeling like these lines are a little bit too harsh for what I like. So I think I'm gonna go over it again with the Plaster color. So let me clean out my brush and I'll be right back. Okay, actually I've decided to try the Apple Barrel White. I'm feeling like since I went over it with the chalk paint, the Apple Barrel will dry faster and hopefully the paper won't wrinkle. That's the main thing that I'm afraid of, why I wasn't using the acrylic in the first place. But let's go ahead and just kind of do as much of a dry brush over this as possible. And see if I feel better about it. Another option, if you don't want to paint this, is to actually, you could actually cover it with like a patterned scrapbook paper. You don't necessarily have to stay with this palette here. You can, you know, mix it up and do what would work best for you in your home. This is just an idea, and you know, creativity is about doing it how would best suit your needs. And I'm feeling better about this already. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this piece as well. And I'm just going over it with a dry brush. You can still see a tinge of the yellow coming through, but the yellow from the plaster, it's not too objectionable to me. Again, if you actually have white chalk paint and you want to do this, I would just go ahead and start there instead of going this roundabout way to get the look that you want. And if anybody has any pointers on how to not let the, I mean, this worked pretty good. It's just not as saturated as with paint as I would normally do. I get pretty heavy-handed with the paint, not gonna lie. But yeah, if you have any tips on how to work with the foam core so that the paper doesn't start wrinkling up and doing all that nonsense, I'd be happy to see it. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and paint the stem. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and just try the acrylic paint. And I'm using the Territorial Beige on this one. It's the same color that we used for the stain. So I'm just gonna go for it. Okay, so next what I'm gonna do is go ahead and attach the centerpiece. Okay, and I can feel some moisture in this, so what I'm going to do is I want this to completely dry so that I can put a sealer on it. So I'm going to set this aside to completely dry, and then once it's dry, I'll be right back. Actually, before I go, I'm going to go ahead and attach the stem as well, so I can just seal it all as one piece. So I'm just gonna put some hot glue right here, and join these two together, and try not to stick it to my table. Okay, so this is what we have so far. So I'm just gonna put this off to the side and let it dry. Okay, so for the next portion, I'm gonna be working on the welcome part of the sign. And I just wanna show you where I got this piece from here. This is from a sign from last year, last fall. It said, "Bless this home." And I just popped it off of there, and because it does resemble the inspiration piece, so we're going to be using that. For the welcome, this was also from last year, and I'm hoping they bring them back this year, but it's the metal words. And what I did was I primed them both with the Plaster Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to be painting over the welcome with the white. The chalk paint is just going to help this stick more. Now if you have white chalk paint, you can just paint over it for the coverage, but I'm going to paint over this in white. And then this one I'm going to be painting with the hazelnut. I'm going to be dry brushing hazelnut, and then also this antique wax from Waverly. So I'm going to start with the welcome portion and get that one done here. So here's my paint palette, I guess if you want to call it, and I'm just going to quickly come over this with the white. So I'm going to go ahead and set this aside to dry. Right, so as stated before, I'm going to be using the hazelnut and then the Waverly antique wax to do this portion of the welcome sign. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned, but this is a chip brush, and I'm just doing a dry brush over this just to kind of I don't want a solid layer, but I will be building up the layers here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside to dry, and then I will be back with the next step. Okay, so next we're going to make the bow that goes on the top of the pumpkin. And I have a few bits and bobs of things from last year, fall time, to make the ribbon. I pulled all of this out and realized I have a bit much for this small pumpkin, so obviously I'm not going to use all of this, but I just wanted to have options. So I think really I am drawn to this one here for sure, this ribbon, and all of these came from Dollar Tree last year, and I'm hoping that they bring them back this year. So I'm really liking this glitter polka dot and the brown. I don't know that I'm gonna use this one for this project. I also have some orange raffia and some burlap ribbon. Now the inspiration piece does have a silver leaf on it. This is a leaf that came off of a ceramic pumpkin that unfortunately broke, but I saved this for a project. I am going to leave it this color just because I do like it this color rather than the silver, to go with these more warmer tones here. So what I'm going to do is start laying out the ribbon. Now you can see that this is a little overpowering large for this, so I am going to cut it down, and I'll be using scissors and my pinking shears to do that. So I think first I'm just gonna, let's see here, I think I'm just gonna cut it. I don't want to cut it too short, so I'm gonna cut it here. And let me measure this just in case anyone needs to know what the measurement of it is right now. I'm looking at about 7 inches that I cut that one down. And I'm gonna be taking my pinking shears and cutting it down further. So I'm gonna cut off the wire edge. And I still think I'm gonna just cut it in half. That way it's not taking over the whole pumpkin. Okay, and I'm gonna do the crisscross bow that I typically do just because that's the easiest for me to do. I'm not really a great bow maker, so that one seems to be the easiest for me. So I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the same thing with this ribbon here, and this is a burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, and I'm hoping it doesn't, because it's a loose weave, I'm hoping it doesn't fall apart when I start doing the cutting. go ahead and cut this one in half as well. Okay. So I'm going to crisscross those. For the raffia. I think I'll just loop this. Maybe I just need one actually. And I'll loop it over itself. I feel like I want more raffia. I don't know, I love this stuff. So now I'm going to take a piece of this twine here, also from Dollar Tree, and cut off a little piece of it. And then I'm going to gather everything up here. I want to put the raffia, got raffia on the brain. I'm gonna put the twine in the middle, and then I'm going to turn it over onto the back and tie it. And this time I'm gonna come back around the front and then tie it off again in the back. Okay. Cut this down. All right, now this is obviously a whole lot for this area, so we're going to cut this down. I really thought it would be easier to work with the longer pieces than try to do the smaller pieces. So that's why I left them a little bit longer than they actually needed to be. Now, if you wanted to, you could dovetail the ends of this. I think I'm just going to stick with the pinking shears this time around. And now I'm going to cut down the raffia. And I really like the look of it to have long and short pieces, so that's why I'm taking the time now to pull some of the pieces over. Okay, I am enjoying the way that this looks, so I think we're good to go on the bow. Next thing is to address this leaf here. Now, what I'm gonna do is take my little needle nose pliers here and kind of roll this a little bit more. I'm going to do the same for this one. And these are some old jewelry making needle nose pliers that I have. And for this part, I am going to take this and wrap it around that one. Take it right about here and just wrap it. And then I'm just gonna bend that edge over some so it's not poking out. Okay, so it looks like that. Okay, so I think I'm liking the way that this looks here. So what I'm going to do first is glue this into place. Okay, so I'm gonna take some hot glue. Actually, I think I'm gonna put it right here. I think I'm going to take out just a couple of these. Okay, there we go. I'm going to pull some of these over. right, so that's what we have so far. So the next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and get the other pieces out, and we'll get this thing put together. It'll be just a moment. Okay, so here is the backing of the whole thing, and I am turning it over to the back, and I just have like a 9-piece inch of twine here that I'm going to go ahead and attach to the back. I don't have a very long hanger on the back just because I don't want the twine to show too much. So I'm going to go ahead and attach it here with hot glue. Just give this glue a little second to set up, and I'm going to bring out the welcome portion and get that put together. So here's our board and our welcome, and I'm going to be using some of this quick grip to attach this, as well as hot glue. Since it is metal, I find that hot glue doesn't always hold it like how you want it to. And I'm trying to minimize the amount of glue that I put on here, so we don't have any oozing to the front. Let's get this just a little bit there. This is probably going to dry up before I can even get it to the board, but you know, I gotta try. So I'm just gonna center this as quickly as possible. Yep. And then stick that down. The welcome sign was actually attached by some swirly wires to the pumpkin, but since I made a backing for it, because the original one doesn't have a backing and I wanted it to, so so if you're interested in doing that, you can most certainly take a drill and drill here and eliminate the backing altogether and poke a hole through here and attach it together with wire. I decided I didn't want the sign to be that way. I wanted it to have this backing on it. So, okay, so the hot glue is set up. So this welcome sign is actually going to go over these areas here where the indents are. Kind of hide that, and then the pumpkin's going to go right here. And I am actually wanting to attach this with wood glue. And I did forget to mention, and I apologize earlier, that I did go ahead and spray seal this with this sealer here, and the front did well, I imagine because it was painted. The back, however, didn't take too kindly to it. I think it's because it wasn't painted at all. So bear that in mind if you do decide to seal this. I don't know what I was thinking about, but I probably should have painted this. Anyway, so that's that. So here it is. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and put some wood glue on here and get these pieces stuck down. Let me just, I think I'm just gonna lift this up so you can see. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and stick the pumpkin down the same way. And this is what she looks like so far, so stay tuned to see how this looks hung up. Don't forget to check out Kerri's video linked in the description box below. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button and leave me a comment below. If you'd like to see more, subscribe and choose all notifications so you don't miss my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, love, inspire, create. See you next time.